Hey guys, and welcome back to Rage Gaming. Today we're talking Diablo 4, and in specific Season 4. If you're unaware, Season 3 hasn't had the best reception, and if you watched my videos about that topic, it's probably pretty clear I'm not a huge fan of the way Season 3's been a bit of a step backwards even in terms of content. There's this kind of acceptable, awkward season about Season 3 going on. We had a leap forward in Season 2, while Season 3 has felt very confusing. Like it's been designed by people who didn't necessarily learn the lessons the people actually who made Season 2 did, especially with the changes they made during that season based on feedback, like the big changes to the abattoir not long after its launch. Well, apparently, allegedly, that's exactly what we're dealing with, and it does explain a lot. Apparently Season 1, that mess of a season, was designed by the same people who have made Season 3, and in turn, that means Season 2 was given more time to resolve the big issues within the game, resulting in what was a much better season. Major systems that needed, serious fixing, like sorcerer and element resistances as a whole, or the total lack of endgame outside of just Nightmare Dungeon tier 100s that you're doing for the vibes. So Season 2 introduced the target bosses to remove the insane RNG to get your vital uniques, or actually farm Ubers in some form. If it is true that there's these two teams, well, it does seem like one team is more trusted than the other, both by the community, but also the people in charge of Diablo 4. The major overhauls to the game are coming, such as the huge itemization update, and that's once again given to the same team who did Season 2. So that's a huge relief, but there's a lot riding on them again for Season 4 to be a bit of a home run, just like Season 2. What is it that Diablo 4 is lacking right now? Well, that's what I want to talk about, and with all that context in mind, what is it that I think Season 4 needs? We'll kick this off by talking about the big topic, itemization, and why it's so important to be updated. We learned that Blizzard is taking the itemization problem seriously over 2 months ago during Season 2 during a campfire chat towards the end of that. Here's the big problem with it right now. You are constantly getting items that have no value. The overwhelming majority of the items you find are trash, but because there's no system to actually manage that loot, what you're shown via say a loot filter, you have to manually check everything that drops, or just choose not to pick up things and probably miss an item you need eventually. This is caused by that poor itemization, which basically means the affixes and the aspects an item can roll with. There's gonna be useless aspects that are completely unused for every class, with a bunch of universal ones that aren't really used either. But the affix situation is the real offender here. You have 4 stats that draw from a list of potential options, and the majority of those options are irrelevant. Things like increased damage while the enemy is slowed, life regen while not damaged recently, control impaired duration reduction, thorns in general, chance to slow, percent chance to heal a tiny amount, slow duration reduction. I can go on, but there's a lot of niche, unused things, walls of useless affixes that actually prevent you from finding a good item. Finding something that's a 4 out of 4 of what you actually need is a pipe dream. It's hard enough finding 3 out of 4. You decide you're going to play the game. You go clear the current season mechanic, which is vaults, granting you a full inventory of items and some glyph XP. You probably cleared that vault in a couple minutes, but now you need to spend the same time you spent in that vault, if not more, at the blacksmith, sorting through the items you've just picked up just in case there was something valuable. You'll have to slowly scan through each and every item, checking the affixes to see if there's anything relevant. Hopefully not bricked by having 2 or more useless affixes. Or God forbid, you actually get the affixes you need, but they rolled poorly. More than likely, you'll be begrudgingly accepting that every item you found isn't worth keeping, so you'll have to dismantle them all. That's the reality of playing Diablo 4 right now once you're nicely into the endgame, unless you're very lucky and actually find an item that's relevant. Now you'll need to use the enchanting system, where you take that 3 out of 4 item and re-roll that last stat over and over until you find something acceptable. Unfortunately, you might brick the item using this system because there's a matter of RNG and time before you run out of materials that are only found in one type of content, meaning Helltides, or maybe the occasional dismantle if you're very lucky, let alone the massively scaling expense of the re-rolling itself, all to just get one item you can probably maybe use, which is funny to say because your stash is probably full already. So an itemization update needs to fix these things. We need less affixes so that we're able to get more often what we want. We need to spend less time actually working out what's worth keeping. It needs to be clearer, and by God, do we need a loot filter. If we could set the affixes and aspects we're looking for before playing, we wouldn't have to see every item that drops. We'd only see the things things that actually have what we're looking for. That might even make it so it feels good to see a drop again. What if they did something simple and satisfying, like special text for a top rolled affix? Maybe when it's high rolled, it's blue. And if it's max rolled, like say the highest roll was 42% or something, then it goes purple or bolded or italic text. So you instantly see that and go, oh, that's top rolled. Look, a loot filter is a bare minimum standard feature for an ARPG, but I'm still going to be blown away if we actually do get a loot filter in Season 4, and not say in the expansion as though it's a feature. If they're not going to give that in Season 4 though, at least completely remove things like the white and blue quality items when you're in World Tier 4. They're literally useless at that stage, so it would slightly help. Now, I do have some news about their itemization plans at least. In that campfire chat before Season 3 launched, they said that yeah, they're working on itemization as a top priority, but it will have to come in Season 4 based on the large scale of changes they plan to make. They acknowledge that there's too many affixes and that there's way too much involved to sort through loot currently, but they even said that they want to provide us with tools to customize and modify good items, which is an exciting concept. Enchanting is just not great in its current system, it's very limited, and it's overly expensive. I feel it could do with a hotfix, even in Season 3, where they just really reduce how much expense it actually is, or just hugely increase the amount of materials we get from the Helltides, or give us other reliable sources to get these Forgotten Souls as well as the Fiend Roses by doing the content that's actually engaging. You could also majorly reduce the materials required for anything below an ancestral quality, so sacreds or even normal pre-World Tier 3 items could be enchanted early. That way, you know, when I'm making a new character, I can immediately give it, I don't know, core skill levels on the gloves. Let me get into the fun immediately. Why do I have to wait till World Tier 4 to do that? Obviously, I'm not going to waste those limited valuable resources before then, but in Season 4 we might get some sort of crafting or upgrading system, or at least an enchanting update. Now, based on what they said, it's like a tool to modify an already good item to be better. That sounds like a crafting or upgrading system to me, such as what we see in Last Epoch or Path of Exile. Maybe you could take a reasonably good item and update it to be a fantastic one. Maybe it's got 3 out of the 4 affixes you're looking for, and instead of RNG rolling that last one, you take the thing you want and you slap it on there. I don't know how they're going to do this system. They've not explained it or described it in any way, but I'm excited they're doing something. There was these 2 tweets lately by some of the team. It was heavily hinted that aspects will be going directly into the codex next season by Adam Fletcher. This has been a big request for a while. Can we not take an aspect off a legendary and then store it in our infinite space codex, which would in turn save a huge amount of stash space from here on. All your rolls for the aspect would go into that specific slot, and they could organize it based on the rolls you found so far, having high rolls at the top or whatever. That would make proper use of that system finally. Yeah, it'd really help the stash. It'd just be a really good quality of life thing. With them hinting that they're doing something like that, hopefully it'll happen. And also, in general, they are going to be massively reducing the amount of affixes in the game, and also perhaps greatly reduce the cost of rerolling too. That was hinted at by Rod Ferguson, who suggested we'd love Season 4 if we want those things. Itemization and the issues around it, the stash, actually playing rather than sorting loot, the codex, a crafting system of some kind. There's a lot of promise here, but there's still one major problem in Diablo 4, even if they were to fix all these things. And that's the complete lack of a proper endgame. Maybe that's too harsh by the standards of some, but honestly, what are we doing in the game at this point? Killing Duriel over and over to get an uber unique so that we can kill Duriel slightly faster. Of course, they intended the gauntlet to be here at Season 3. The gauntlet should have launched with the game, or at least Season 1. The fact that it's been delayed so many times, even during the season it was promised it'll finally be here, is crazy. Things were even worse before Season 2. We didn't have the target bosses to give us something to specifically hunt down. But after Season 2, I've got to say, it's just not fun. I served my judgment time in Season 2, hunting and killing 300 to 400 Duriels mindlessly for weeks. The results of my labor was 1 uber unique. So I've had absolutely no drive to do that again in Season 3. I honestly don't know how you could. Even if the gauntlet was in the game right now, I still wouldn't want to be farming them uber uniques. There's no mercy system, there's no guarantee. Uber uniques in that topic is something else entirely. I've continually expressed how I think they should be farmable from multiple sources, be that whispers, dungeons, world bosses, make it way more likely. They actually buffed the chance you can get them from other kinds of content, but based on the testing, it's gone from they don't exist to, yeah, you're never gonna find one, you're never gonna know anyone that finds one, but you might hear of someone that found one. Incredible. But yeah, it's the endgame that's the issue here. Uniques aside, long term, there's no real reason to clear a tier 100 vault or dungeon. There's no real reason to be killing Uber Liliths over and over. And without the gauntlet, there's no reason to farm Ubers. In that same dev stream I mentioned for Itemization, they also stated that the endgame content alongside Itemization is a top development priority. We have no idea what that means, and for Season 4 in particular, but hopefully it's something good. You could imagine they meant the gauntlet when they said that, but I don't know, I just feel like they meant Season 4 since that was the topic. Other games like Path of Exile and Last Epoch have this similar system called monoliths or mapping. I'm expecting then for them to make their own version of that, and maybe we could see something like that in Season 4. Lastly, 3 quick fire topics I'm just going to reference. Firstly, Druids deserve better. Druids are painfully dependent on uniques to make their main builds work. I think that should be removed from the game. Slap those functional effects into the skill tree for the Druids yesterday, so that while they're leveling, they get to immediately get those transform benefits and feel strong and enjoy the experience instead of having to wait until World Tier 4 to really get going. It's very weird. Second, I hope they reuse seasonal content to add more options to the endgame long term. You could bring back the Blood Harvests as a different way to get different materials. Could be boss summoning materials, Helltide materials as random ideas. Take the interesting traps from the vaults and slap them into regular dungeons and boss fights in Season 4. Why take all that development time to create something interesting and new and then delete it when we're already lacking content in that endgame? It's a complicated idea. I bet it's really hard to do, but it does feel wasteful. Lastly, loadouts. We've been asking for them since the betas. Changing builds in the game is awkward and slow as hell. Your previous game, Diablo 3, had the armory for this purpose, so we'd love to see that come back, but I'm starting to think that they're going to add that as a feature in the DLC. Alright, so those are my big hopes for Season 4. I hope we see some awesome improvements, whether they're these ones we talked about or the unexpected ones. The game needs another leap forward at this point, so Season 4 needs to deliver. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, let us know what you think. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.